I thought we kicked out King George III and his Tories already. Is history repeating itself? Two-way, 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 two-way. It's not a threat, but a promise to the Declaration of Independence. It's a promise to the Constitution. It's a promise to our posterity who count on what we do today. And it's a promise to our natural rights to be able to defend ourselves from tyrants. It's a warning to those who abuse us and who take that oath fraudulently, not even be able to tell the 5 elements of the First Amendment. And cops are not stupid, they're just trained poorly. The government wants an ignorant populace unaware of their rights. Simon says, sit down. Simon says, stand up. Get 2 cops giving you differing instructions. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat. Incrementally not that far from Brown Shirt's 1930s Deutschland. I'm here to preserve the Union and to fix the government of our creation in order to protect ourselves from them. Their duty is to protect our civil rights specifically. That's what we pay them taxes for. And that's why we support Cadet Academy, to teach de-escalation. I had to take a charm, because before I put this vid up, I was so upset after seeing the angry vet. The veterans, hospitals, abusing our vets, and for all who carry cameras. A second citizenry has been created, a 2-class citizen structure. Those with cameras and those without. Putting the second-class citizen as the ones with the cameras trying to protect even the children of the police officers who abuse us. Yeah, I'm pissed. And my poor dog was so upset. He's run into the bathroom. You've upset my dog. I'll never forget that. I project that upon you, you pieces of shizzle. My free expressed First Amendment right to free speech, except for what is controlled, of course, by a private platform known as YouTube. Fortunately, I'm a small enough channel that I can still get away with it, and that my influence is larger than my subscriber numbers. I've created a position for myself. No one else does what I do. I'm old. 2 stent surgeries failed. I can't walk. Ask those who I spent a month with a year and a half ago to show that I wasn't afraid to go out, even though I would have preferred to have bail money and a good attorney, because discount lawyer equals discount verdict. You have to get to a second-level appellate case and have the wherewithal to handle it in the funds and the psychic energy. My father, who was a top attorney, pro bono counsel for the New York City Police Sergeants Benevolent Association. You know there are 30,000 lawful peace officers in New York City, of which quite a few thousand are sergeants. I hope that my father would be rolling over in his grave for what he sees. Judges used to walk into the penthouse office overlooking the courts from across the Woolworth building and Pace University. where I spent a lot of time as a child in Chinatown, walking safely because those locally knew that my father would get free citizenship for the hard-working Chinese who slept in their own restaurants, while we foolishly bought our house first. But there are laws about sleeping on the floor in Chinese restaurants. I'm off on a tangent. Just to give you a little background, because I was a bootlicker for the first 68 years, but a constitutionalist at the same time. I just didn't understand the nuances, or why paparazzi didn't get arrested. All of us who call Brads and Karens and Brads. Yeah, lower your volume because mine is up. Such is my anger. Passionate anger, one of my favorite vids. Check it out. Like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to educational activists. I've always been trying to get to reduce drama in clicks, CLIQUES. But one has to adjust the mission statement from time to time. As we approach those goals of pursuit of happiness, we have to learn to adjust them along the way. Because it's not the goal that gives us the satisfaction, it's the ability to pursue and achieve towards it that stimulates the creative human predator mind. We're predators, mind you. Government, remember that. There are reasons why we shoved and stole a nation from the United Kingdom, the greatest empire ever on earth, greater than the Mongols and greater than Alexander, and thank God greater than Hitler or Stalin or Mao. The million deaths under their yoke. Totalitarianism exists from both ends of the political spectrum. Constitution before party, constitutional words, lives matter. Support educational activists. I will no longer give my time or effort to those overly instigating activists, even though being annoying isn't a crime. I get it. But you do a disservice because you don't further liberty. Calling citizens Karens and Brads when we were Karens and Brads 5 years ago, probably 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% of us, and we have the audacity to have the same reactions as we abhor from the police, our ego, our certitude, our elitism, looking down upon them. For clicks and views, it's hard to go out in tandem because activists might be asking an officer a question who might actually be in discourse with us, trying to answer it. And because a second or third tandem activist is there and knows their viewership is trying to see how high they are climbing on that hill, that testosterone-laden men. And huzzah for that! But it's a hierarchical system. You know how you used to play as boys, didn't you? Climbing up that hill. We do that now with each other, thwarting our own question and interrupting it before the police officer has asked it, for our own ego and our own purpose, putting liberty second to our own needs. I could go on. Anyone who's interested in education understands what I'm saying. Our purpose is to further liberty by teaching the nuances of the Constitution that we understand. We don't have to pat ourselves on the back. We already get it. It's our job and responsibility to teach others who don't. Patiently. It can't be done in a fell swoop by our actions and attitude. I didn't know why some of our activists, when I first started watching, weren't getting arrested. And I considered myself rather astute in the Constitution. I've been carrying around pocket constitutions. This isn't the one that's close and dear to my heart. This was given to me by someone who personally I don't respect, who I abhor. But for the cause of liberty. I'll even hold hands with those who I don't like, because we have to put our feelings aside. And I feel like throwing this down, but I will put this down with care, because this is my Bible. I only wish I knew where mine was, the one that I used in my video titled The Constitution. But that's my personal issue, so I'll set that aside for now. So you made my dog afraid because of my reaction that I couldn't control, because I was so angry. Spend your time, please, with educational activists. It's a subjective thing. I know that. But those who mock the public, who will only go home a mother to her daughter crying, "What's wrong, Mom?" "Well, these men who were really mean to the police were also mean to me. They called me a Karen. I'm not a Karen. I go to civic meetings and I donate my time and money to charity. I vote. And they call me Karen." So they go home and they teach their tween kids to despise the First Amendment. They were First Amendment auditors, they called them, or the cops mentioned their First Amendment auditors, one of them. I don't like them. Is that winning hearts and minds? I think we're failing on that. What percent of the general public do you think knows what a First Amendment activist is? Have you ever thought about that? Do you think we need a majority of the public to get behind us? What percentage of colonials who froze their feet off at Yorktown and other places? Perhaps 10% at most. Most were ambivalent, just as they are today. Simon says, just obey. Bend over and enjoy it. We have to teach them patiently, because the profound knowledge that we've learned today didn't come at birth. We had to learn it. We know we didn't learn it in public schools. A lot of you learned it because you were disenfranchised from an early age, either economically or through abuses of police officers. And it's understandable. But perhaps you never even had the funds or wherewithal to hire a housekeeper or hire someone to paint your apartment or house. You did it yourself. More power to you. But you wouldn't treat, I hope, one of your private servants, a housekeeper or a waiter or a painter, the way you do our public servants, patrol officers, and low-level employees at the motor vehicle department. If you're going to put into complaints, put it into supervisors, admins, HR departments, personnel departments, legal departments, to your congressman. The same effort can be put behind that and get better responses, because a supervisor doesn't want to have all these complaints into them. They'd rather have pawns. It's low-hanging fruit. It's easy for an activist to go after a low-level individual and go down to the mailroom and yell at them and put in complaints and rile up the mob of your own viewers to look and slow down for the car accident. Shame on you. I won't support you. I won't. I'm old. I do a lot behind the scenes. I don't have the time or inclination any longer. You don't deserve it. It's not meritorious. You diminish furthering liberty. You're going the wrong direction. We've done a fairly good job of educating a large percentage of police officers. They might do so begrudgingly, mind you. I'd rather it be begrudging than not at all. It's the guards, of course, in these buildings that are huge issues, in concert, collusion with the government, these private guard companies who make it difficult to sue, are taught not even to read a document. It's hard enough to get a police officer to do so. It's impossible to get a guard to do so. And then they back it up with these laminator signs or statutes that are partial or don't have any bearing on what they're claiming limits the right to record in public. It's not complex. Wherever the public can go, so too can the camera. They've created a second level of citizenry of those with a camera to stifle, thwart, and obscure us. Hoop after hoop after hoop. We know it, we see it, we understand their cop dialect lingo from East Coast to West, even their mannerisms, spitting, stretching the neck, the hand clapping, the shifting of the feet. All telltale signs. I suggest you back away, because you're there before Wilding. He wants to punish you. He wants you to walk by and share a molecule of your clothing with his so he can take you to the ground and seize your camera. And don't go out with a camera that has information on other individuals. I don't care if they legally have to get a warrant. I don't trust them. Do you? Don't put names of other advocates on the camera that you're using or know you're going out to use. Leave yours at home. Take paper documents with you pertaining to the specificity of the type of advocacy that you're doing that day. Advocate, observer, free citizen press. I don't care what you call it, as I've said. They're all wonderful and sweet to my ears. I won't support overly instigating activists any longer. I won't do it. I want to up those percentages of the public who get nuanced year in, year out. Year in, year out. Even if it's a 0.5% more, I'd say we're at maybe 2% who might know what a First Amendment advocate is. Activists should take a few minutes out for polling. And I think maybe another 2% maybe know what a cop watcher is. I wouldn't use the term cop blocker because that's a really negative connotation. Everybody knows what a paparazzi is. Oh yeah, they're like used car salesmen and it's like politicians. I don't want to be in that same category. I want citizens to back us up. When 1 or 2 advocates get 6 or 7 patrol cars coming, I want the public to be there to overwhelm them, to not be afraid, and not to comply with illegal orders. As hard as it is, but in numbers, it makes it more difficult for officers to abuse us. They'll be forced to call a supervisor or a sergeant or a lieutenant. Not that all of them get it, we understand, but the higher level you get, there's more propensity of finding someone who actually will apply the law. Just comply, officers, and then there won't be violence. And then we won't have to call to action. 2A, 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 and instead they can call peace. Peace. It can go either way, can't it? It's a precipice. And there are enough, not that we can even count on Second Amendment acolytes. You understand that? We have our Second Amendment auditors. That's different. Those who are key on Second Amendment only don't understand the nuances of what we do. They don't like the way we handle it with police officers. They ask for permission before they walk open carry. Don't count on them. They'll back the blue until it happens to them. That's a harsh reality. That's why we have to do this peaceably, but still carry that threat to leave an uncertainty. Because I'd love to see 1,000 almost parked Texases. That was one of my favorite moments in modern history, by the way. Well, that's why my second channel's moniker is Minute Women Press Advocacy. Didn't quite turn out the way I wanted to because I'm so illiterate in this IT, but that's my issue. I'm doing fine. I preserve liberty for the sake of our posterity, regardless one's hue, as best I can, but at least I'm trying at 73. And I wish I could be out there with you, but it would be foolish for me to do so, because I think I'm more useful here, lying on my bed with my laptop on top of me. You can only do what you can with the abilities that one's left with. I can get away with things because I'm old, and I'm willing to take that risk and not worry if someone knocks on my door calling me an insurrectionist. Better for me, who's a wordsmith, who can handle it, and also claim free speech, because I'm a writer, and one never knows if I'm speaking fiction or nonfiction, because it's none of their damn business. I know who I am, and I'm the best friend these cops have, because I'm reasonable, and I ask people to put in commendations to reinforce better behaviors. I don't use the term good cop any longer, because of the nature of complicity and all the other things they do in keeping quiet, because they really are little sheeple, because cops are afraid of one another. Cops aren't just afraid of the public, they're afraid of one another. They're afraid that officers whom are suspect of other blue for doing or saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, place, and manner, apologizing and admitting fault publicly. Blue might come back to the police department locker room and whisper, "What do you think we should do about XYZ? Can we trust him?" I grew up in the time of Serpico, had a restaurant in the South Bronx in the early 70s, thousands of burnt out buildings. Don't think that my advocacy began with this movement, or that I haven't risked my life and limb before that, or that I'm not streetwise just because I might have come from a well-to-do family, although my father built it from nothing. My grandmother, immigrants along with my father. She sold apples in the streets of New York City. I choose to offer my limited skill sets to this wonderful warted community, but I won't support instigators any longer. You diminish liberty. You destroy the hard efforts of educational activists who do it the right way, who I want to represent the gray areas of law that have not yet had precedence. I trust them. I don't trust you. Those who call out Karens and Brads or seek only notoriety for clicks and views. You have to earn it. You have to earn my respect. Win hearts and minds. We need to get those percentages up. Just 5% to 7 or 8%. And then things will automatically cure itself, because those 7 or 8% will be the squeaky wheel to teach others. And when we start giving 10-minute talks at schools, topic, what does the Constitution and the First Amendment and cell phones have in common? The ubiquitous cell phones. To 8th graders, the question and answer period should be lively. Principals would be hard-pressed to deny this if we can get a few and work out the outline for it as beta testing, then do it nationally. And then the children will go home and teach their parents. And then we might save even the public schools, because not all can homeschool. It seems that the alphas here don't want to work together because they're alphas. I respect it. Who else is going to go before the hot breath of a police officer? 10% of us get arrested approximately every year. I'm a data person. I'm a fact-based person. That was what I was involved with House Divided blog site before I came here to this movement, to show what the other half of the soundbite is that mainstream media did not put up, to show there's more commonality than not in this nation. We're drifting apart, where we don't even break bread together. So of course one side might look at another as monsters. And how can we treat monsters? We can eliminate them. They're not really human. But I try not to get involved in my political perspectives, because I am Constitution before party. But I'm also here for the individual, still knowing that it's important in a civilized society to take care of those who can't, which can even include me or you at certain periods of our lives. We're large-scale populations. But I have other vids that cover that. The vids I put up for the sake primarily, especially when I began, for my grandchildren who are too young to ever know me or know what I've done. And if anyone has ancillary benefits from these odd, eclectic vids I put up, that I assure you, if you do any binge watching after you subscribed, I assure you that you will end up unsubscribing. It's just how it is, because none of us can agree with everything another person says. A wise person knows when to shut their mouths. I don't answer questions, officer, and appear wise. I'm foolish. I speak up on too many topics, because I'm speaking to a more specific audience. My grandchildren, my posterity, and I thank all of you, educational activists, who will protect my progeny long after I'm gone. As I said in my first vid, it's my fervor for liberty that brings out my emotions. But I assure you, I remain strong and will be there to breach the front if ever I have to. Two-way, two-way, two-way. It's not a threat, but a promise to the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, our posterity, and to natural rights. We have many Tories among us, and it's not their fault that they're Tories. It's up to us to teach them patiently. They need more than one individual who they trust in order to subtly alter their minds. It doesn't have to be an about face. An adjustment is all we ask. Don't expect it from everyone. Take polls. I have it available. I'll put that online and suggest it to others. I've also put together a small package of case laws. It's an ongoing process, just like this enlightened experiment of Madison and Adams and Jefferson. It's not the Constitution's fault that it's not being followed and ignored, as though it's children's fairy tales. I don't even know how to roll my eyes or do this head thing. Never did that. Never watched reality TV shows, by the way, until I gave up my TV years ago. I do find it odd to find so many on our panels. I know that a lot of us are disenfranchised from not just the government, but even our own families and friends. I don't know how one can't be. I am. Lost most of them. But that was done voluntarily, just as I give my time to liberty voluntarily when there are other things I'd rather do. How about you? But social media can cancel people very easily, so if you have a job, you do want to get home. I understand that. But if we don't do what we must today, then we leave that responsibility for our children, who might be left with blood-stained hands if we don't risk the threat of letting government know that we're willing to do so. Is it peace or is it violence? I prefer peace, but I want them to know that I'm locked and loaded, just in case. I wish you all well. I wish you peace. Protect the Constitution and save the Republic. The Constitutional Republic, protecting minority rights and the guilty against the temporary mob of the majority, differentiating us from other democracies. We're on a Tuesday, the majority is green-eyed people, and on a Wednesday it's brown-eyed. The Constitutional Republic protects everyone every day of the week if it's done properly. We're not born equally. Thank goodness we're born with different mixes in the soup, all different, with hopefully latent greatnesses in us, especially if we have a mentor who can assist us. But we do expect equality under the law, even though it might not be so. We want to try to head towards that pursuit. We don't have to demolish the government to do so. We just have to get involved and to fix what we broke by taking our eyes off the ball and lost it incrementally as the government became bloated and they grabbed power that was never loaned to them. Their privileges are all only temporary. It's our rights that are permanent. They can't be transferred or taken away, though some try to do so and limit or legislate it away. That can be done with privileges. Reread the Constitution. This document that's quite simple. It's not complex because the Founding Fathers knew that it was important to have laws written so the average individual can understand them. There's some beautiful language written. The lonely pamphleteer has the same rights as the large-scale corporations. We are all citizen press. If only we place that moniker upon our temple of our own mind and willing to speak your one a mind without fear of recrimination. I love all of you who love and cherish liberty and further it as opposed to diminish it. Protect the Constitution, my liberty friends. Good night all, ending with a smile.